Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk. I'm doing that thing again where I click live and then I check to see if my microphone's attached and it's saying that it's not, and I don't know why. So I'm hoping if I pull out this one and then put this back in, maybe we'll get lucky. I don't think we have though. I think it might be this one. I think it is that one. Let's put that one back in. Is that going to solve anything? I don't think so. For some reason, the microphone's not working this morning. You're going to have to deal with this. I'm hoping the audio is still crystal clear. Probably not. It's probably not at all. But I'm hoping that you can still hear me to some degree. Oh, hold on.
Oh, that's better. That's better. There we go. Lovely stuff. Always the way, isn't it? Let's start this again. Good morning. Hello, and welcome to the Gooner Talk. Hope you're doing good. I hope you're doing well. Thank you, as always, for joining us and making us a part of your morning routines every day, 8 a.m. UK time. Let's jump into the chat box, of course, this morning. I need to start doing that. I do that thing where I'm like, right, okay, I'm ready. And basically, I'm doing this big training plan thing at the moment where, like, got like a PT, got off every single morning, got to track my sleep, hence why I'm wearing this Fitbit all the time, and it's now made my mornings even more hectic. So yes, apologies for the minute issues, but I'm hoping that you can understand. Creeper fam, good morning to you, to Barry, to Paul, to Olu, good morning to Matt G, to PJ, Aidan, Peeny Ween, good morning to Martin, Guna Jake, Marcus, good morning to Jose, Stevie, Errol, good morning to Correde, James, Martin, Johnny, Justin, and plenty more of you guys as well. Thank you as always, for making this very much part of your morning routines. Right, let's crack on with today's stories, shall we? We kick off, first of all, with a signal on the Arsenal website that perhaps we are embarking upon the moment where the new kits will be launching. Because if you click on the Arsenal Direct website, which is where you usually go and buy stuff, it comes up with a yellow and navy / black text of "will be back soon." So the new away kit is expected to launch probably today. It'd be strange if the Arsenal website was off all day. So it seems there's an expectation the Arsenal away kit will launch, in which it will be one of the biggest disappointments in Arsenal kit. I should have wore the black kit today and kind of protest to the fact we're going from what we wore last season to this season. It is what it is. It is what it is. I can't complain all that much, but I have to say it is a little bit disappointing to be going from what kit. I'm still in this moment in time in the camp of not buying it. Who knows? Maybe if we were to sign someone crazy, I would end up doing it. But let's wait and see what happens. Odegaard has completed light training in Washington. I was told reliably that he kind of did the bike work, the fitness work, and a little bit of ball work before going back inside. And it was good to see him out on the grass. Leandro Trossard as well. Seems that those players' injuries weren't too bad. The only player that is obviously facing a bit more of a significant problem is Reece Nelson, who didn't travel to the US with the squad and is back in the UK working on his fitness. But yeah, Odegaard, Trossard, doesn't seem to be their issues that they suffered against Nuremberg are too serious, which is obviously really fantastic news for us. It was a really good clip of Odegaard jumping on the back of Arteta for a game that they were playing. Completely parched. Like, there's no doubt about it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you should check out the Peter Crouch podcast. But Odegaard might be the most parched player on the planet. I think it's not very debatable at all. James Milner will give him a good run for his money, I'm sure, but you know, if you're jumping on the manager's back for a piggyback, come on. It's proper teacher's pet vibes, isn't it? It's apples on the desk is what I would say with Odegaard, but I kind of love it, to be fair. Cedric was not taken by Arsenal because of a decision made by Mikel Arteta, according to Chris Wheatley, who suggests that Cedric's future, as I think we're all aware at this point, is very much away from things. And it's a shame that it's not going to end, I think, in a more beneficial way for Arsenal, in a more of a financially beneficial way for us. I think we're probably going to see a termination of his contract, most likely. That's probably what is going to end up happening. But yeah, we're going to see him not kept, if you like. We're saying kept. What is a kep? I said kept. Unless I'm messing up my words this morning, and the chat box is absolutely doing me for it. But Cedric is a player that I think we all know is just simply not just not good enough, and needs to find a new club moving forwards. Inter Milan are pushing to try and sign Folarin Balogun. Of course, we know of the interest from Inter Milan and plenty of other clubs as well. But James Benge, CBS Sports and friend of the channel, reporting yesterday for CBS that Balogun has emerged as the #1 target for Inter Milan after, of course, they were unsuccessful in their bid for Romelu Lukaku. It said that Arsenal have a valuation of around £50 million for the player, which is about 58 million euros, but we're expected to see a bid, according to The Athletic, of around 40 million euros arrive, which is to fall short of that valuation. You can imagine that we'll see negotiations between the sides continue. Have I made a mistake on the slides? That's what I've done. I'm just wondering what you guys are talking about. Inter Milan pushing very much for Balogun, who is said to be open to the move, which is an important point of view to take into consideration. He was talking at the training session, the open training session yesterday in the US, saying that, he's happy to be in the US, but he's kind of allowing his agents, his representatives, and his family to deal with the future of the player. So let's see. Let's see what happens. But I'm hoping that we get a resolution to this relatively quickly. But if Arsenal can get close to 50 million, amazing. I've said before, if we can get over 40 million pounds, great. I think that's a great evaluation for the player. If you can get over 40 million pounds, fantastic. So let's wait and see what ends up happening with Balogun. Nicolas Pepe, again, James Benge of CBS Sports claiming that there is significant interest, it seems, from Saudi Arabia, and a mid-table Saudi Arabian club has expressed initial interest in Pepe. However, there is currently a significant difference between the salary expectations of the suitor in the Pro League and the player himself. Arsenal are believed to be willing to accept a nominal fee or potentially even a contract termination if it helps get the final year of his £7.3 million salary off their books. So it could be that Saudi Arabia is the destination for Nicolas Pepe. We'll have to wait and see if that ends up being the case. I certainly would not expect Arsenal to get anything, to be honest, for Nicolas Pepe this summer. I think it will be, as I've predicted, along with Cedric, a contract termination for both players and eventually both of them moving on. But it would get Arsenal a significant amount of money off of any potential deal. But it does go to show that even when Saudi Arabian sides aren't willing to match the wage demands of Pepe, I mean, it kind of shows you, for me, what has been one of the key issues with this. That said, he did take a pay cut when he went to Nice. It's worth pointing that out, and playtime was important. But I think any player that's potentially having interest from Saudi Arabia has now got this kind of expectation around how much money they might be able to get out there, and they're trying to maximize that. Can't blame them for that. I'm not any issue with players making the switch. It's life-changing money for them. But it's I don't think it's going to be a swift and quickly resolved story, this one. But we'll wait and see. We'll see if anything changes in the near to long-term future. And lastly, Mikel Arteta did speak yesterday whilst at the open training session, talking about the potential for transfers. He says, every sign that we have made brings special things to the team. We are very pleased, as you can imagine, and we signed the players that we wanted. We've signed them early, and they've started to adapt to the first team really fast. We have some time now to prepare for them to get the best chance to express themselves in the right way and adapt the experience that they'll experience for the next few days, how it looks like Arsenal. He was asked about kind of Declan Rice and how his mentality is. He says, I think you all know, his leadership, personality, and the experience he already has at 24. He's already close with some boys. He knew a few of them from England's camp as well. He continued by saying Declan is very much known within the league and has done tremendously well for both West Ham and England. He's a player that is going to bring a lot of qualities, a lot of leadership, and a lot of experience in the league. Very specific in the position with the qualities that he has, and we are delighted to have him. He was asked about what more Arsenal might do, and he says, let's see. There is a lot of time still in the market and a lot of expectation in some of our players. So we will have to see how things develop in the next couple of weeks. We will be alert. There is still some time to do things, and there is still time for exits as well, obviously. I'm sure things will move. So it seems that we are not done. Stop taking the mick out of my spelling. on these slides. I put these slides together so fast. I'm sorry. Let's put an F in there. There we go. Transfers, lovely stuff. But we are very much hopeful that more deals will indeed be done, and that we will hopefully anyway see some other players come through the doors at Arsenal before the season, or rather the summer, is completed. I've certainly been given plenty of indication that more is expected, but we'll wait and see what ends up happening. Right, let's move to part 2 then, and your questions right after this. So I'm very happy to announce the first panelist for our live show that we'll be doing in North London. Tickets available down in today's video description, and of course, if you're listening on iTunes and Spotify, in the link that's available on the channel homepage and on and in the description of each of the show notes as well. You can still get tickets for this, but Harry Symeou will be one of our panelists. He revealed this on his show yesterday, or the day before yesterday. I think he mentioned it. So I was like, I'm going to have to get this one out first. But Harry will, of course, be joining me along with some other guests as well. It's great to see so many of you snapping up tickets. I'll be continuing to push this to try and see if we can sell out our capacity. But thank you to everyone that's already bought tickets. For those that have questions about anything, I know a couple of people have asked a number of questions. We're trying to get answers to those and back to you as soon as possible. But if you've not got your ticket already, you can go down in today's video description. And of course, I'll always try my best to leave ticket links online. And I left one in the community tab yesterday as well. So if you want to get tickets, you'll be able to watch it. It will not be streamed live. So the only way to watch it live is obviously being in the room. But we will be recording it and hopefully releasing at a later date. But I can't promise that. It depends on how it goes on the day. Right then, let's go to the chat box and your questions. Let's go to Penny Ween says, once upon a time, you used to teach the next generation. Will they be able to spell, or will be bad at it like you are? To be fair, it's not about spelling. It's about just like, I'm typing so fast that sometimes I just leave out a letter and I don't go back and proofread it. It's more about the proofreading thing. But when you're creating a show in like 20 minutes in the morning and putting a slideshow together, I'm going to miss out a couple of letters. It's nothing to do with spelling. Spelling is absolutely fine. I write for a living, but it's the how fast I'm having to put the slides together and not checking it beforehand. So there you go. Vijay says, Champions League final in Wembley this year. Arsenal's home ground. 8 out of 10 wins in the finals played there. Is it destiny? What's your Champions League predictions? I'm hoping that we can progress through to at least the quarterfinals, if not further. You know, we absolutely have got a team that I think can progress through this competition. We've strengthened it. We've reinforced it with good depth and good options. We should be trying to. But the fact that it's at Wembley, you know, would give us a big, big boost. And hopefully we can reach that final. It would be an amazing achievement to do so. But I do think there is an opportunity for Arsenal to be able to get there. Let's go to Philip says, morning. Poll for today's show or tomorrow. One player left to sign: goalkeeper, defender, midfielder, striker, or winger. I mean, I've only got 4 options in my poll list. So let me throw it into the chat box for you guys then. Let's start a poll. Which position? Oh, no. Why have I done that? I've just closed. I closed it. Why did I ended up closing the blooming page? Right, let me do that again. Try this one more time. If it's going to give me the opportunity. Right. Poll. Here we go. Which position, if you don't have one, would you sign a player in? Let me just proofread this. Which position, if you can only have one, would you sign a player in? Yes. Okay. So we've got, let's go defense. Let's go midfield. Let's go wide player. And let's go centre forwards. That's your options. We'll throw that into the chat box. That's your option. So get voting, and we'll return and have a look at that poll, Philip, for you very shortly. Paul says, how much would Inter want if Balogun was their player and we wanted to buy him? They'd want more than 40 million euros. Even with a buyback/sell-on clause, 40 million is insulting. I don't think 40 million is insulting, to be honest. No, I think it's below our valuation. I don't think it's insulting. I think if you insert a buyback or a sell-on clause, it's going to be closer to that 40 million pounds than euros. So about 45 million euros, you'd imagine. If people want there to be a buyback clause, you're going to have to accept that the transfer fee is going to be lower than if that isn't included in the deal. Also, buyback clauses don't mean that if you pay the money, the player will definitely return. It's down to the player whether or not they do. So that's also worth very much pointing out in this case. Let's go to Jaden says, hey, Tom, there was a guy on TalkSport that laughed and did not take Arsene Wenger's claim that we would win the Premier League next season. I feel that is a little rude, even from a Spurs fan. I'm assuming you're talking about Jamie O'Hara. And I think that just kind of says enough. He's designed to wind up Arsenal fans, so don't let him do it. Don't let him get in your head. Let's go to Lolu, who says, who has the highest ceiling, Eddie Nketiah or Folarin Balogun? I think it's Folarin Balogun. I don't think there's going to be too much debate about that one. Fuad says, Tom, I'll be honest, I don't trust Reece Nelson's fitness at all, and I think a left winger is his best position. Is there a right winger in the market you'd like us to target? It's a very dry right wing market right now. I suppose Moussa Diaby is the obvious one that you'd look to. If you can get Chiesa for a reasonable figure, but again, his injury record's not great, and he's coming back off a serious injury as well. Who else could potentially be an option for us? I would have loved to have seen Xavi Simons come in. I thought that would have been a perfect option for us to bring a player in. But Xavi Simons, I don't think he's going to be ending up at Arsenal because he's gone back to PSG and is probably going to be leaving for Leipzig on loan. But you're right, there's not too many right-wing options on the market at the moment. So, yeah, sadly, doesn't seem that that's a clear and obvious option for us. Let's go to scrolling down the chat box a little bit more. Vanity says, have you seen the links to Neto resurface, and is there any truth in it? Well, the only truth will be that Arsenal have a long-term interest in the player, but his injury record, again, is pretty poor. Didn't have a good season last year either. So very, very difficult to see Arsenal making big money moves for Pedro Neto. Charlie says, Elise, yes, great option. Potentially, Elise would be someone that maybe we could move for. Jabu says, what about Nico Williams? He has a 40 million euro release clause, doesn't he? Or 50 million euro, one of the two. Could be an option for us moving forwards. Zaha is a solid no from me, Selam, sorry. I think he's going to be moving probably to Saudi Arabia, which I think is a real shame. You know, I think he wanted to test himself in Europe, and he might never end up doing that. I mean, I suppose he did a little bit for Man United, but still never, ever really has seen a progression, if you like, at all. Going forwards, let's go to Abe says, Tom, do you think that Balogun's interview shows his attitude towards Arsenal? With only a single full season, he talks too much. I assume these are the quotes that we've seen come out yesterday in one of his interviews. Let me find the quotes. I've got them direct. I know I've got them on my phone somewhere because I got them sent to me about 17 times. Balogun said, I think with me coming back, it's not really much of a situation where I think I can need to try extra hard to prove something. I think it's a decision that's not really with me. Whatever happens, I'm cool with it. Yeah, I mean, it's a shame to hear kind of him speaking in that way. It's not the attitude I like in a play. You know, you should be coming back and trying your absolute maximum to prove not just to Arsenal, but to Inter Milan and other suitors that, you know, that's the right place. I think it makes it easier for us to part ways with him in some ways, that when you look at that attitude, is that the type of attitude that you want to see in a player that is going to be staying? It's a difficult one. But for me, I'm not wildly enthused by seeing those words at all. And it is disappointing, actually. I think it is a disappointing one. Let's go to Paul says, how old are you? 28, 29, very soon. Closing in on the big 3-0. So we're getting closer, very close indeed. Next season, I will be not next season, as in the season after. In 24-25, I will be 30. It's a scary thought, very scary indeed, because I know some people have seen me on a Burkout Wonderland when I was 19. So that kind of gives you some kind of realism to how long I've been doing podcasting and YouTube and stuff like that. A good 10 years nearly now. So yeah, kind of crazy. But I am 28 until I am 29, Dave. Very, very important to point that one out. It's very, very true. Very accurate indeed. Raul says, Tom, I think Joao Felix on loan would be a good option. He can cover all three positions in our front three. What's your take? I would absolutely, Rahul, be up for that. A loan of Joao Felix with an option to buy that's reasonable, not a loan with no option. It's not worth doing if there's no option. You need to have some control, I think, in those types of loan deals. And wage packet as well. So let's wait and see. Let's wait and see what happens. But Joao Felix on loan with an option, I think, would be a very, very shrewd bit of business if it's a reasonable wage, loan fee, and of course, option included on that. If it was like a 70 million euro option, I can get on board with that. If it's like below 200k per week wages, I can get on board with that. If it's below an 8 million loan fee, I can get on board with that. So I think that would be fair enough in that regard. Abby says, so you're younger than Trossard? Yes, he's one of the few people I get to speak to in the mix zone that I'm actually younger than, which is why I'm a bit gutted that Xhaka's left. Every time I spoke to Xhaka in the mix zone, it was very much like, yep, no, it's fine. I'm still speaking to someone that's older than me. But yeah, whenever I'm speaking to Ramsdale or Rice next season, who I look forward to speaking to in the mix zone, it's never a great feeling when you're talking to people and you're getting the answer. These are guys that are so much younger than me now. It's strange. It's a very strange feeling. Slingshot Dave says, Tom, do you worry that crowds will now demand perfection next season? Dan Pot style. My fave moment last season was when the crowd chanted Saliba's name after the own goal, Victoria Concordia. I don't think Dan demands perfection, to be fair. I think that's unfair on Dan. I think Dan expects us to aim for the biggest and best trophies. That's what Dan's expectation is. Do I always agree with the level of demand in some ways? No, maybe it's slightly different to mine, but I don't think Dan demands perfection. I think the problem, Dave, people maybe like yourself and others create when you do that is that you create a perception of people like Dan that isn't accurate. I have lots of conversations with Dan where actually you'd probably think that he's more aligned with my thinking on lots of things. So, for instance, what was I talking about? The Man City thing. He had a guy on his channel called, I think it was North London Red. I think that was the channel where was it North Side? I think it might have been something like that. And he basically said that Champions League and Premier League, if we're not winning one of them, Arteta should get sacked. And I had a conversation with Dan about this tweet because some of the abuse that kid got was unacceptable. I replied to it because I found it funny. But anyone that sent abuse to that guy, you need to screw your head on a bit tighter because that's not okay. Whether you're abusing people because they are Arteta out or you're abusing people because they're Arteta in, none of it's fine. You're not allowed to do it. It's just not okay. Stop abusing people online. But what I said, the conversation I had with Dan is that, if we're not the favourites for any of those competitions, and he agreed, you can't demand that we win it, So that's kind of where we're at on that conversation. Let's go to Alex says, we're taking too much of a punt on Havertz as a midfielder, in my opinion. Obviously, I hope he performs, but we don't really have a specialised box-to-box midfielder if he's injured or not performing. What are your thoughts? I think that position is going to evolve and change. I know that we've got very used to Xhaka playing in that role, Alex, but I also think that Declan Rice's presence changes things. I also think in certain games, if you want to be a bit more defensive, if Partey leaves and, we either bring a Lavia or someone in like that, you can still use Rice and Jorginho, I think, as a defensive base. I think you can use a double pivot defensively, 2 6s, if you like, in certain fixtures. But in other games, like when we play at home to Nottingham Forest, do you think we'd be able to use a Havertz, an Odegaard and a Rice as the midfield three? So I think that there is scope for change. I think that people maybe put too much emphasis on what is a set 11, but actually going game by game, we can make tweaks and changes depending on what we do. Do I rate Ibrahim Sangare? Yes, I do, Samuel. I think he would be a very good replacement for Thomas Partey if he was to leave. So, yes, certainly an option that maybe Arsenal could consider. Donkey says, if you can't handle the heat, don't bring the smoke. I don't think that anything that was said was deserving of abuse. And I think if a comment is coming in like that to try and justify people abusing, it's not okay. And frankly, you're not welcome in this community if you think that abuse is acceptable in any way, shape or form. An eye for an eye is not the way forwards, I'm afraid. Al Khaldi says, if it's true that my team, Al Hilal, came for Pepe, how much money would Arsenal accept? 1 million, maybe. I think we'd accept any amount of money, to be honest, if it agreed the deal. I think they'd take whatever they can get, to be fair. Troy says, every podcast I watch these days are looking at Arsenal to now go and win every competition. Rival fans are team Arsenal these days, waiting for us to fail. And of course they are. The same way that we've waited for Man United and Man City and Chelsea to fail. It's part of rivalry. It's part of what makes football what it is. We don't want to see other teams succeeding, and everyone's waiting for Arsenal to fail because that's what football is. It shouldn't annoy you. It shouldn't annoy anyone that other teams want us to fail. We want all of them to fail. It's just how football works. For me, I think you just need to be a little bit thick-skinned about it, a little bit headstrong. Arsenal are great. And we're doing great things, and we're moving in a great direction. And I'm looking forward to seeing what this team produces and turns into and evolves towards, So I look forward to that. I can't wait to see it. Let's go to Reese says, Tom, have you watched Arsenal's recap of last season, part 1 and 2? I found a new respect for Nketiah, especially the game against United. I've not yet, no. I think maybe if you're finding a new respect for Nketiah, maybe it comes from the fact that you didn't appreciate him as much during the season. I was very complimentary of Eddie Nketiah throughout the season. I felt during the time that Gabriel Jesus was out, he came in and did well. I do think, though, that there were times where Trossard came in and I think offered more than what Eddie Nketiah offered in that centre-forward position. And I think that when Gabriel Jesus returned, obviously, again, we saw that increase to another level. And we missed some key players during those periods as well, like Partey for some games, like Saliba, obviously, and Tomiyasu as well. So I think that it's more about, if you're finding a new respect for Nketiah, maybe, and I might be wrong, but it's just my theory, maybe it's because you didn't appreciate him enough in the moments where he deserved that appreciation. That might be where it's come from, Reese. Let's go to Ashish says, Tom, reports suggest that Brighton will be rejecting the Chelsea £75 million bid. This means Arsenal are out of the race. Surely, though, if we sell Partey, only hope is that we sell for more. I think that the door, as I've reported, has never been fully closed on Caicedo, but it would depend upon if Arsenal could agree a fee and also if they could get a serious amount of money in for Partey. So I think there are certain players where they're dependent upon other deals. Obviously, that goes without saying. But it's difficult to see Arsenal stumping up £100 million for Caicedo. It's really, really difficult. I think what's interesting is the dynamic regarding the promise that Brighton made to Caicedo, in a sense of, if you've promised to let him leave if a big club comes in, but no one ever reaches that 100 million valuation, where does that leave you at the end of the window? Are you then betraying the promise you made to that player by not accepting a bid before the end of the window? Or are you still standing firm on your valuation and never accepting it? It's a very, very difficult kind of dynamic to get a feel from, if you like. Wow says, do we know if Arsenal are looking for a winger? I feel like we have enough players in that position right now. I think they're open to opportunities in almost every position if they think there is an opportunity that can improve the team. Looking at the poll, though, we did ask you to vote on which position, if you can only have one, would you sign a player in. 2% say the defence, 34% say midfield, 29% say out wide, and 35% winning say centre forward. So interesting indeed that a lot of you would sign a centre forward. Maybe that's because Balogun's probably going. So that's potentially maybe why you're thinking in that direction. Steve says, love the show, Tom. Great stuff. Thanks, mate. Honest question. Do you think if we signed Joao Felix on loan last season on loan, we would have pushed the title race closer to the end? No, I don't think so, Steve. I think that the main reason why we didn't win the league last season was because of William Saliba's injury. And Joao Felix doesn't change that. Jesus came back. Trossard did a really good job. And even Eddie Nketiah did a decent job for a certain period as well. So no, I don't think that Joao Felix's presence is the difference between Arsenal winning and not winning the league, to be fair. I just don't see it that way. Again, before we wrap up the show, let me remind you, if you haven't already got tickets for our live event, Harry Symeou will be joining me, as well as a number of other guests, which will be announced in due course on the 13th of August at the Mildmay Club in Newington Green in North London. I look forward to seeing as many of you as feasibly possible. Link is down in today's video description if you would like to get tickets for that. As I say, I can't wait. It's going to be great. It's going to be a great day, great fun, lots of chat, lots of Arsenal fans meeting one another, lots of people in the chat box meeting people for the first time, myself and Harry and our guests meeting you guys That's the first time, potentially some as well. So I'm looking forward to it. Always, as I say, we'll be continuing to push this, to advertise it, to get people involved, and hopefully get as close to our capacity as we can. Anyway, thank you so much, guys, for listening. It's been an absolute pleasure, as it always is. Make sure that you hit a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here with those notifications turned on, so you never miss a show. I'll be back tomorrow morning, of course. I'll also be back a little bit later on this morning on the Arsenal Way, so make sure you check us out at 10 a.m. as always over there. But it's been a real pleasure to speak with you, and I will catch you on the next one. Have a great day. Stay safe, stay well, and as always, up the Arsenal.